It's round 2 of the FIA World Endurance Championship, and after the first round taking place at the 12 Hours of Sebring, the championship now makes its way to Spa-Francorchamps. This track is firmly set in motorsport history and considered by many racing drivers as the most beautiful track in the world.
Hello, I'm Jackie Hicks. Welcome to the World Endurance Championship FIA. Welcome at the 6 Hours of Spa.
With Audi leading the point standings after Sebring, we now move to Europe, where the rest of the teams hope to catch them up. To some, this is considered the dress rehearsal before the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and lasting the race duration here will surely give the teams a good indication to what they can achieve in June. A highly technical circuit, it offers drivers and spectators a unique experience. Continuing on our road to Spa, we visit the V Club, celebrating the famous driver Michel Vaillant. We went in search of this motorsporting legend.
Hi.
We're looking for Michel Vaillant.
Oh, he's not here, but his team manager is here. You want to meet him?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Michel Vaillant is, of course, the comic book hero racing driver whose life and career has been shaped around motorsport. First racing in the late 50s, he is still competing and beating champions today. Philippe Breton tells us more.
He's a French driver, maybe the most famous French driver, but his adventures were born in Belgium. So Francorchamps is not only the most beautiful circuit in the world, but it has a real importance in the adventure of Michel Vaillant. But something very strange is that even if he's racing in Francorchamps since the 50s, he never won there.
He may not have won here in Spa, but he does have many titles under his belt.
It's difficult to summarize such a career because Michel Vaillant started racing against Fangio, Jean Bérat in the 50s. He raced also against Gurney and Andretti, and now he's racing against Alonso and Vettel. So it's a long way to be his manager. The influence of Michel Vaillant on the real racing world is amazing too, because of reading Michel Vaillant adventures, some kids, when they grew up, they decide to be racers or journalists or car designers, among the most famous of them.
Pierre Van Vliet, Belgium TV pundit, tells us why he believes a little country like Belgium is such a big country for car racing.
The passion because of the Spa circuit and the history. So we have had very famous racing driver, we have had national team, you know, like Écurie Francorchamps, the famous yellow Ferraris, and Jackie Hicks, of course, and lots of others afterwards. So it's a tradition. Still a strong passion, you know. Automobile is part of Belgian culture, really, and the sport in particular. We haven't had a Formula One driver for a long time between Thierry Boutsen and now Jérôme D'Ambrosio, but the support is here, definitely.
And that support will surely be seen this weekend as endurance racing heads back to the Belgian track.
Well, it's a big event for the Spa circuit. It's the very first big international race of the season. And of course, endurance racing has been very important for the Spa circuit since, you know, the 1920s. We have had 24-hour race, and the 1,000-kilometer sports car race was very, very popular in the 60s or the 70s.
Spa-Francorchamps is steeped in motorsport history, hosting the Formula One Grand Prix of Belgium no less than 46 times. Created in 1921 and revised several times since then, we speak to a man involved in the most recent redesign, six-time Le Mans winner and Belgian racing legend, Jackie Hicks.
Still today, it's reckoned of probably the most beautiful race course in the world. In a way, it's not artificial. It's a natural race course. It goes up, it goes down, it goes through the forest, it goes through the different fields of the Spa era. There is this masterpiece of the Eau Rouge Rédillon, which is absolutely an incredible point. Yes, the people love Francorchamps because simply it's unique.
As the teams arrive in Belgium and get ready for round 2, the threat of rain is looming. However, it turned out to be a dry qualifying session for everybody. With the launch of the new Audi R18 e-tron Quattro and the lack of presence from Toyota, Audi were keen to make their mark into this new generation of sports car racing. Heading out early, Alan McNish was the man to make history. With a superb lap, he became first man to get pole in a hybrid.
It's a stunning feeling, to be honest, because to come to a circuit with e-tron Quattro and to give it its first pole position is another milestone for Audi. Dindo, Tom and I did exactly the same thing for the first diesel-engined R10. And that was a nice feeling, but this one just adds to it. It's quite a special one. It was a good lap as well.
Set a best time on his second flying lap, putting him just over half a second clear of Marco Bononomi in the R18 Ultra. Rebellion Racing was the best of the rest. In LMP2, it was John Martin who claimed pole. The fastest man in GT Pro was Frederick Makovici for Luxury Racing, and it's IMSA Performance Matt Mutt in pole for GTM. Hoping to put a good performance in Spa is Oak Racing. We follow their LMP1 car during qualifying to see how the team dynamics work throughout the session.
On peut attendre un peu dans la pit lane et partir un peu plus tôt que ce qu'on a fait l'autre coup en essai libre. Là, il y aura de toute façon pas les GT. Et je t'envoie quand les voitures sont au milieu du secteur 2, ça te va?
Ouais, ok, on fait ça. Écoute, il vaut mieux laisser partir que se retrouver gêné. Surtout que nous, il faut vraiment pas qu'on soit gêné dans notre tour. Donc, quand c'est au milieu du secteur 2, effectivement, si on fait partir, je pense pas qu'il pleuve de toute façon.
Ok, on a de l'essence pour faire...
The thing about this place is that it demands a driver and a car is at its peak if it's going to be fast. It demands that you attack the corners. You can't be gentle, you can't think about conservation, you've got to really get stuck into it. Now La Source is a hairpin. I'm looking at the pit board over on the right hand side, and then immediately my eyes are darting back to the left to get my braking point round about this 150 metre board, and then trying to work out where I'm turning into the corner, because the problem is it's a wall. And let's stop here and have a little look around, because we're at a wall, our apex is a wall. It's something that you can't quite get a real feel for because you have to turn in before you really feel it. Let's look outside and see the contours of the land. Come back here and look how much it comes uphill, but also look how much the camber leans into that corner. And as a driver, you want to be so close to this curb. You need to get your inside wheel on this section. But the reality is you can't see what's round about the corner, but you've got to use that camber of the corner. And if you lock up a brake, you end up out wide, and then instantly you know you've lost maybe half a second, but also you've got the chance of someone coming down your inside, down into Eau Rouge. If we look forward, now it opens up, and you've got this death-defying dip down into the hill, and then suddenly it goes up left and right. But when we're coming down here, and this is the really difficult part, you're looking left, but you're getting closer and closer and closer to the pit wall on the right, so you're skiffing the pit wall on the right before you bleed it in left, straight over these curbs, hard over the curbs, and then pointing the car up to an unknown destination. This is a total area of commitment, and this is a blind corner at 260 kilometers per hour. Now, the two wheels of my car will be exactly on this point, and this position is dictated by what I do at those grandstands right at the bottom of the hill, that curb I hit on the left hand side. That dictates exactly where my car is now. So if I've made a mistake by a metre down there, it's double when I get up to here, and then I'm in recovery mode. This is one of the best places to see a racing car. It's also one of the best overtaking opportunities as well, because you've got a big, deep braking point at Les Combes, the top of the hill, the right, left, right here, which is a technical little part, but this is where you'll see people diving down the inside if it's an LMP battle, or even round the outside if it's a GT battle. But reality, once we're here in the middle of the corner, there is only one line. Pouhon. Basically, you're coming downhill, you're just dabbing the brake, you're trying to pull it down a gear and let the car float through the corner. But that's a really difficult thing to do because, again, it's a little bit blind. Like a lot of these corners here, when you turn in, you don't see the mid-corner to the exit. You just see really where you're going around about that first part. Now, Blanchimont is a 290 kilometre per hour. You turn in, and then you just hang on. The G-force suddenly builds up at this point and it pulls you and then it takes you to the exit. In the race, I'll be doing it 290 before coming diving in to the last corner of the circuit and also the slowest corner of the circuit. This is 65 kilometers per hour, coming from about 295, dancing on the brakes. And those big curves are very, very unforgiving. Before you get back on the throttle, trying to use all of the power, all of the grip, and then shoot across the line, and that will be a one lap of Spa and hopefully a very fast one and a pole position lap.
"39 cars on the grid, 2 more in the pit lane starting, and 4 Audis charging down to the La Source hairpin and through La Source, and just look at that spray. Tom Christensen leading the field around, with Marc Genet in second place, Andre Lotterer in third, Marco Bononomi in fourth place. And this was the story of the race, with these 4 Audis pulling ahead. And it was expected to be a battle of the Audis, and sure enough, at the start of the race, they were in the lead. The field streaming through. 2 cars, as I say, starting from the pits. And off the circuit there briefly. There are the 2 cars, the JRM HPD and the Lotus number 32 of Luca Moro starting from the pits. So that the JRM went off on the parade lap. The race developing into the battle between the e-tron Quattros and the Ultras, which are the non-hybrid cars, the e-tron Quattros hybrid. And number 4, Bononomi, with number 3, Marc Genet, the Spanish driver. Lots of spins all the way through the field. That was Philippe Hezeburg, who we'll also see later. Jean-Philippe Belloc gets all crossed up in the Corvette. But ultra-competitive class LMP2 battle going on as well. Very competitive in LMP2 with Sam Hancock here just ahead of Baz Linders, the local driver. Baz Linders absolutely on a charge in the Morgan Judd there. And Baz Linders getting through all the way through the field, shaking up the order. Ferraris and Porsches having great battles in the GT classes as well. And really good to see them doing battle around this circuit. And the traffic, quite incredible. This is Jean-Denis Delatraz in the Gulf car, squeezed by a single-seater Morgan Judd there. And Delatraz gets going again, but to some detriment of his car. Ferrari battles as well. And tremendous battle between those 2 cars. But let's hear from Belgian sports car legend Jackie Ickx. He, of course, drove for Ferrari and Porsche, and knows all about the battles around Spa.
Modern cars are so good. Usually you go flat out, and there is so much competition between the cars, between the drivers, because they are really a high level. Yes, it makes it difficult, but it's, of course, if you win, for the glory, because an easy win, it never brings any kind of super glory.
The conditions particularly treacherous, and a lot of traffic making it very difficult. Baz Linders there still fighting his way through the field. And in GT class, we also had off into the gravel trap, we had Enzo Potoliccio in the Starworks HPD, which finished in 3rd place in Sebring. But he got out of the gravel trap. This is Baz Linders now with Sohail Ayari in the Picom Oreca car. And Sohail Ayari fighting back as Baz Linders got through. Further back, we had problems for the Aston Martin. John Gore explains.
Aston Martin come back in for a tyre change and a steering wheel change. That obviously didn't fix the problem, John. What is the issue?
No, we've got a little, at this stage, we've got a problem with the gear shift. And as you say, when we came back in, we tried to change the steering wheel because we thought it might be an electronic problem. But we think it's more the actuator in the gearbox that we're having a look at right now. But hopefully we can get back out.
In the petrol engine class in LMP1, the dome of Sebastian Bourdais battling with Nick Heidfeld in the Rebellion Lola. And that was a battle that continued all the way through the race. And the Rebellion team watching on, but there was more drama for the Potoliccio car, which was 3rd at Sebring, and in fact this was caused by his exit earlier on, overheating. Meanwhile, the Dome and Rebellion battle continued, and we hear from Stefan Sarazar, who explains the Starworks fire.
Well, we've seen that Enzo Potoliccio has been struggling out there. This is definitely not what you needed today, is it?
Yeah, it's bad. Enzo had a spin and he stayed on the gravel. And after we have a problem with the engine, I think. Maybe a temperature too high, I don't know.
Team Felbermayr here with Luxury Racing Ferrari. And Fred Makovici in the Ferrari with the Team Felbermayr Porsches in both the GT Am and Pro class. Jackie X tells us about the importance of teamwork in the pits by the mechanics.
When you are in the car, it depends from your mechanics and the engineers. You know, it's up to them to make it as quick as possible, as they are professional. As you can see in every pit stop today in modern racing, it's very short. It's not relaxing, because if you have another stint behind, you know you have to attack. So whatever, you stay concentrate, and that's the main point.
Then it was time for Audi pit stops.
Hand-side headlight must be repaired.
And that's car number 2. That's the car of Tom Christensen. And when he came in, they had to repair the front bodywork. You don't just take out a bulb, you take off the whole of the bonnet and just replace that. Battles amongst the Audis, but here it is, the change for Tom Christensen. Plugged back in again and ready to go, but that was to cost him 2nd place. He'd already been overtaken by Andre Lotterer. Marc Genet there. And he's going on to slick tyres, whereas many others were going on to intermediates. And Marc Genet rejoins. So much traffic all the way down through the field, and making it very, very difficult.
Attention on the pit wall, car 13, stop and go penalty for having provoked the jump start in the start of the race.
There for car number 13, one of the Rebellion Lolas. And this is the traffic with Tracy Cronin, the Ferrari, and flashing lights from another car. And it just demonstrates how difficult it is weaving through the traffic when you're in a faster car. And it doesn't always come right, of course, but he's managed to get through past the Porsches and Ferraris there. Riding in the Chevrolet Corvette, the Labra car, looking back as they go into La Source, and riding with the Audi going through La Source hairpin. Jackie X talks about the potential for mistakes around this circuit, as we see a little coming together there.
accidents or mistakes are part of the race, but it's also very human. I did some mistakes, some co-drive did some mistake, it's part of it. But we know we will have other opportunities to win other races, and no, you don't pick up the negative aspect of association time to time. You take the positive aspect, and as far we are concerned, it was very positive for us.
Into the pits there, Audi number 1 going on to slicks. And the Audis continuing to maintain their dominance. Number 3, the leader now, Dumas Duval and Marc Genet in the Audi Ultra, which had moved into the lead. And into the pits is the e-tron of Tom Christensen, taking off his Bell helmet. Let's hear more about helmets.
Which one? Only Mark. Sorry? Only Mark was the only car.
Well, indeed, Bell Racing currently is owned by Belgian people. It's owned by my sister and my brother-in-law. I'm the commercial director at the company.
And the family company is expanding.
And now, since a couple of years also, we bought the rights also for the production, even for the Bell United States. So currently, our company owns the rights for the production of car racing helmets for Bell for the whole world. It must be around between 30 and 50,000 helmets in a year.
And they work with all the big names in motorsport.
Well, as our company is a small company, family-owned, we give a lot of importance to the kind of relationship that we have with the drivers.
I work with these now for more than 10 years, and I like that there is this kind of service to optimize the insert of the helmet, to make sure everything is fitting. Of course, working with the radio system and the identification. So it's good to work with these guys. Of course, they're from Belgium, so they don't have a good sense of humor. So that's the only problem. And the design is also they are not really up to the latest design, but there I help them a little bit.
Meanwhile, the battle was continuing between Sébastien Bourdais, crewed with Nicolas Minassian, and the Neil Jani, Nicolas Prost, Nick Heidfeld, Rebellion Lola, powered by a Toyota engine. And the first of the petrol cars, the Audis, of course, with diesel engines. And coming into the pits there is the Rebellion Lola. Meanwhile, a nasty moment there for the Picom Oreca, which hit the back of a slower car and lost its front bodywork, but made it back to the pits okay. Another car that went back to the pits was the Jordan Tresson Signatech car, which lost a rear wheel and staggered back to the pits.
We saw Pierre Rag in the Signatech car limp back on 3 wheels. First of all, what happened?
In my first stint, I have a trouble with we broken the upright and on the rear left, so I lose the wheel. So after I come back very slowly, and now the mechanic may make a good job to repair and start for finish the race.
Nick Heidfeld out there still battling away, having a very lively race. Driver whose Formula One career virtually ended at this circuit just 1 year ago. Benoit Prelouillet weaving through the traffic and being caught by Luc Duval, his teammate, in a tremendous overtaking maneuver on either side of traffic there. And Duval eventually gets ahead of his teammate as they come into La Source. Prelouillet leaving space for Duval, and Duval moving into a lead that the car number 3 would not lose. Two Audis there, the Ultra ahead of the e-tron Quattro, charging up to Les Combes.
Prochain tour, Bertrand, et changement pilote avec Dominique, confirme.
And radio traffic there to Bertrand Baguette in the number 15 Oak Pescarolo, and pit stop for them.
Dominique, si c'est OK pour toi, fais-moi un signe, tiens-toi prêt, c'est bon derrière.
Changing to Dominic Kreihammer. And let's hear from Bertrand Baguette, the local driver.
C'est OK, on y va.
Well, it was not too bad. We started with wet tires, a little bit too high in pressure, so we had to stop a little bit earlier. Then we put some cut slick on it. It was good at the beginning, but then again we had to stop to put real slick on it. I did a double stint. I think the pace was not too bad, even if we struggle a little bit with the car this weekend. But well, we are I think P7 or P8, so we will try to stay out of trouble, and there should be good points at the end.
Sébastien Bourdais also came into the pits to hand over to Nicolas Minassian, but as Sébastien explains, the team is in trouble with this dome. New tyres go on, and Nicolas Minassian climbs aboard.
Sébastien Bourdais is just back to the pits as well. How was that?
It was all right. I mean, obviously conditions were a bit tricky at the beginning. We decided to go with the harder wet tire initially. Struggled for a few laps, then the track started to dry, and it was the right thing to do for sure, so we could transition all the way to the dries. Same thing, a bit tough at the beginning with the dries, and the car was handling very well, and I was pretty happy, pretty fast, and then we started to have massive misfires on the engine, and it never went away. So sometimes you lose a second a lap, sometimes you lose 2 seconds a lap, sometimes it's fine. So it's pretty frustrating out there, but we're just going to try and bring it home and see what happens.
To the pit wall, black and
white flag for Nick Heidfeld after this incident with the Labre Corvette, from which both of them were able to rejoin. Fortunately, Nick Heidfeld just getting a flag there, not a penalty. And still charging along in the Rebellion Lola.
Stop and go penalty, car 58 for causing a collision with car number 3.
That is the luxury racing Ferrari, gets a stop and go penalty. And car 3 is the Duval leading Audi. Meanwhile, Dindo Capello ready to get into the number 2 car to take over from Alan McNish. McNish climbing out. Capello preparing for his stint. And we had a little bit of an incident at the La Source hairpin between Perez Companc and Tracy Crone. And Alan McNish also was alerted to a problem with Dindo Capello before he went out. And there was a bit of a worry. At the same time, the safety car was out.
We are deploying now the safety car. The circuit is under safety car procedures. Both safety cars are deployed.
Alan wasn't exactly happy with his stint now because he was struggling a bit. We were trying different tire types between the different cars, and he was the one, let's say, on the different tires, which we would have thought would be working slightly better than we effectively have seen here during his stint. So it was a little bit of a struggle for him, but I think it had nothing to do with what you saw when he was running out of the garage. He just saw Dindo sitting in a car who was waving and asking for help, so this is why he had this, call it violent reaction.
Yes, he thought Capello had made some sort of a sign. But let's hear about these fascinating Audis, these hybrid cars, and just exactly the benefits that come from these cars.
The 2012 World Endurance Championship sees the launch of a new era in sports car racing, the hybrid. With Audi already firmly placed in the championship and launching their diesel hybrid here in Spa, this season they will have a new contender, Toyota, with their petrol hybrid.
This motor generator is able, during braking, to take a part of this braking
torque and braking energy consequently, and charge an energy storage system. In our case, it's a capacitor, it could be a battery, it could be a flywheel. When the driver is reaccelerating, then you get a nice, strong acceleration, which is composed by two terms, the combustion engine torque and the electrical torque, till the energy storage is empty.
Toyota suffered a setback after an accident during testing and have had to delay their race debut of its Challenger until Le Mans in June. But how do they see this technology working in race conditions?
We can use it to improve performance. If you add, I would say, on top of a full power from the combustion engine, the full electrical power, or we can use it for a given pace, for example, to use less fuel.
So Audi will be the first to race the 2012 season in a hybrid. They've opted for the electric flywheel system to power the front wheels, but how does this extra boost feel for a driver?
The moment when you go on throttle above 120, the system start to boost the energy which you are recuperating on the braking just the corner before. So this amount of energy you have on two electro engines on the front, and they boost for approximately 3 seconds. This is the maximum time it can boost, and this feels like an extra turbo, for example, but at the moment the energy is finished, you feel like some power is missing, so you would like to have it longer, but for sure it's not possible.
We believe that in the traffic situation, when it comes to overtaking other cars or lapping other cars, especially if you are around cars which are on a similar level of performance, the extra acceleration with a hybrid boost will just make your life in the traffic a little bit easier.
Of course, with new technology comes a new safety precaution, and Audi have a light system in place. Wearing protective gloves and a telemetry system which tells them when it's safe to touch the car. This is not only to protect the driver, but also all of the team working on it. And here we are, the start of a new era. The hybrid enters the World Endurance Championship.
Safety car came in, but it was soon out again when Philippe Hazebrook had another big accident at the Rédillon. The car got away from him and he crashed heavily into the tyre wall, but happily he was able to extract himself and appeared to be without injury. But it was a bit of a mystery to Marc Graillot of the Extreme Limit team as to what exactly had happened. The safety car came out to control the race while the debris was removed, and we hear from Marc Graillot now.
We have seen the driver get out, so I'm guessing from that you haven't had any contact with him, but he is okay by the looks of it.
Yes, he is okay. The driver is okay, and he tells me that the car slipped alone like that. It is not, even him did not know exactly what it happened, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Audi still in the lead at the restart. And pulling away, still going extremely well, the Dumas car. This is, in fact is the Oliver Jarvis Marco Bononomi car, but 4 Audis out in the lead. Meanwhile, number 38 there is the Simon Dolan Sam Hancock Jota car, gets a 30-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Capello and Bononomi battle over third place in their Audis. They're encouraged to race. They are, after all, racing drivers, even if they are in the same team. And Oliver Jarvis very much enjoyed that. Now we're riding with Dominic Kraiheimer in the number 15 Oak Pescarolo. Charging up the hill towards Les Combes. In Les Combes, caught catching one of the Ferraris there, but getting past it. And traffic is what it's all about.
In racing, I think 19% of the candidates for motor racing, they are all amateurs. You have to be used to it and you have to accept it as it is. in my opinion, the fastest car don't have the priority. That was anyhow my philosophy in the past. I was always ready to lose 1 or 2 seconds rather than tempting overpassing another competitor without being sure he has seen me. For a slower car, whatever is very slow or not very slow, it's very difficult to drive looking in front and at the same time looking in the mirror.
The Audi there continuing on its way, the first 4 in LMP1 into the pits. Comes number 1, that's the Trellier Fessler Lotterer car. Goes on its way. Jarvis Bononomi in 3rd spot. Audi absolutely dominating, but an interesting mix of the 2 types of car in the order. And there in the cockpit we see bottles being changed. Don't think it's the minibar somehow. And the number 2 car of Capello, Christensen and McNish rejoins. Slowing on circuit there, the dome once again with its electrical problems, which has caused the misfire for Sebastian Bourdais and Nicolas Minassian. All of a sudden it speeds up again and it seems to be okay. Henri Pescarolo watching on.
Be advised, car 17 slow on the track. Car 17 is gaining pace now. He's gaining pace.
Reporting to other drivers. And in fact overtakes into Eau Rouge, getting past the Rebellion Lola, still charging when it's going well. Certainly 2 very competitive drivers in there, but it all went wrong and had to be wheeled back into the garage when it wouldn't start at a pit stop. Henri Pescarolo not happy. A lot of work had to take place on that car. Meanwhile, the Signatec car of Jordan Tresson hit the barrier and wrecked the back end of the car, which blocked the pit lane when he tried to go back into the pits. Didn't have any steerage.
Be advised, yellow flags at T18, 19. Yellow
it took quite some while to get him into the pits.
T19.
But meanwhile, in the pits, there was still work taking place on the Pescarolo Dome, as Le Grand Henri explains.
What was the problem with the car?
Difficult to know because we changed nearly everything. So it was impossible to find the real problem and where it was. So instead of trying to find it, we changed nearly everything when it was possible to be changed. It's a pity because now the car is very quick, you know. But as usual, you know, an electrical problem is the worst to find from where it's coming. So we lost some time at the beginning of the race, you know, with those problems, but not too much. After it became worse, and at the end it stopped, you know, in the pit. So now it's working well.
Signatec had a bit more of a problem, however, with a broken rear suspension after Tresson hit the barrier, and that was going to take somewhat longer to repair.
Il y a que la biellette. Il y a que la pince.
Battle for 4th in the GT Am class there between the Labra Corvette and the luxury racing Ferrari. And the Ferrari getting past the Corvette. Meanwhile, Renger van der Zande was in trouble and stopped against the barrier. Jackie X, meanwhile, explains about sharing a car.
Actually, you are 3 in the car, so these 3 drivers has to have the same philosophy, to take their ego down and to build up an association who is going to be the most positive one to be in the best possible situation to win a race. From the start, whatever is in racing or not in life, if you want to succeed in a project, yes, it's a team effort.
Capello there getting past Minassian. Romain Dumas in the lead still in Audi number 3. As dusk began to fall at Spa, but no problems for the Audis, not at this stage. Meanwhile, the LMP2 leader was Robbie Kerr in the ADR Delta after Hancock had a 30-second stop-go penalty.
Information for car number 2. For violation of the refueling regulations, the penalty: stopping of the car in the pit lane, stopping, restart the engine, and then the driver can go.
So a penalty for car number 2, but it was in 4th place and it wasn't going to make any difference to its position. So the Sebring winners back into the pits and ready to go out again. Capello taking the car back into the race. Meanwhile, Oak number 15 had a spin and was in trouble. Seemed to be something wrong with the rear suspension.
When you have done a lot of motor racing, you know that until the flag is not almost there, don't make any prediction. I've done many races where I stopped 1 hour before the end or even 5 minutes before the end. So it's only when you see the checkered flag and you pass the finishing line, you know it's over. Otherwise, no, you haven't won until that point.
Tremendous battle for the AM class in the GT division, but the Audi team confident now on the last lap that they're going to win, particularly with the car number 3, Romain Dumas, Loïc Duval and Marc Genet. Genet having his 3rd win here at Spa. And flashing the lights as they come up to complete the lap, to complete 6 hours racing, taking the checkered flag and victory for the Audi Ultra. And fireworks and rejoicing at Audi. A tremendous, tremendous victory. 4 brand new cars finishing in the first 4 places. It doesn't get any better than that. Winner of LMP2 in the end was the Jota Zytek of Simon Dolan and Sam Hancock. An excellent victory for them, just vanquishing the ADR car at the end. Meanwhile, in GT Pro, it was this close, with the Porsche of Lieben Lietz ahead of the Ferrari of Bruni and Fisichella, just 0.628 seconds after 6 hours of racing. And victory for the Porsche just at the end. There's the results. We spoke to the winners.
Marjorie, it may not have been the Audi result that was expected, but fantastic result for you.
Yeah, because we really thought the e-tron was going to blow us away because it was so much quicker at the start of the race, all through the week. But then our car today ran very well. The 3 drivers, we did a very good job, the engineers, mechanics, and it was a perfect race for us, so very surprised.
Well done.
Romain Dumas also very happy as well.
Romain Dumas, it was a fantastic performance. There you go, the team celebrating just there. But with those last-minute pit stops, did you think the tyres were going to last?
Well, you know, it was clear when I heard they did not take the tires. I had no chance, and I said, okay, I do the same. And actually, it was, you know, I have not other choice, and for sure, I was really taking care of my tires the last 15 laps. I had a good gap before, so I was just driving around, but, you know, it was very long because I knew if they stopped, you know, because they were not so sure with the tires, but with me, the tires were perfect until the end, no problem with the car. Teammates made a fantastic job, I have to say, if we look where we start from. And yeah, we always gain time on the pit, so I think it was a perfect race for us, and I'm very happy.
There we are, the final classification after 6 hours of racing. 4 Audis heading this 6-hour race, round 2 of the World Endurance Championship. And of course, coming up next is Les 24 Heures du Mans. But first of all, the class winners there, and a tremendous number of finishers as well. 36 finishers. And a full house on the podium for Audi. In fact, they were joined by the 4th place crew as well. And the German national anthem playing for the Audi team. And it couldn't be a better way to go to Les 24 Heures du Mans, taking place in 6 weeks' time. And that is the big test of endurance.